this thing is sick.
Dude,
it's like super buttery.
It's absolutely amazing.
No recoil. It points really well.
Hey boys.
I mean,
Hey,
oh God.
how you doing down there? Yeah. Well, is the range hot? Do I need my ears on? Hey, I just got something from Cabela's I wanted to show you. Good old
Dude,
boys
this
down at
guy.
Cabela's got me hooked
I
up
bet
with
you
it.
he's 20 bucks says he's gonna want to talk about his 1911.
Yeah.
I guarantee he's gonna want to talk about his 1911.
Hey boys, how you doing there? Hey, oh, fingers off the trigger now. Proper gun safety, right? Yeah. Hey, is that a 1911?
It's a Staccato P, bro.
A stuck in your what?
9mm double stack 2011, bro.
20. What? No, it only goes up to 19. Now, what do you even have on your head? You got like tin foil on your head. You listen to the aliens coming down with all your high-speed nonsense. I'll tell you something. All you need, son, is a 1911. 2 World Wars. You hear me? Okay. Now, step back now. Step back. You're about to witness the power, okay? The glory of the 45 ACP. Yeah! 2 World Wars, baby! Woo!
Dude, let's go before he turns around.
God, please.
Oh, God.
Go.
He's gonna start talking about stopping power.
God, dude, he's gonna talk about his retirement fund.
Get to the car.
Go!
So we got the Staccato P here, just so you guys know. This weapon is clear. There's no rounds in the chamber, nothing in the magazine. Magazine well, unfortunately.
Yeah, don't worry. The magazine's right here.
YouTube.
And it won't go in the gun. Ever.
We got the Staccato P here. This is a full-size handgun. We're gonna kind of go over all the stuff on this, but first things first, I know Colin's got a really big fixation on these sights, so tell me about them.
Well, the sights, they help you see, so that's pretty sweet. What I actually really like about the sights, they're made from Dawson Precision. The rear, these are actually the suppressor height ones, so the rear is fully blacked out. There is no green dot, there's no white dots, there's no tritium, nothing like that, it's just flat black. But the front utilizes a fiber optic. So right now there's a green fiber optic. You could probably change that out if you wanted to, so that's kind of nice. This green pops really, really well, so it's easy to pick up that iron as you're coming up with the gun. The model is optics ready, so this is the DPO. It's actually also Dawson Precision that does that and fit pretty much any optic you want on here. There are optics plates that usually come with it, and there's plenty of aftermarket support for it as well. So whatever optic you want to run, you can get one on this 2011. I guess one downside to it, if you do run an optic, you lose your rear iron because the rear iron is mounted to the optics plate.
Okay. Moving along from the iron sights and the optics cut, one thing that is really nice about this gun is you do get a full-size frame or a full-length rail here. It's kind of well known that when you buy a 1911 or anything in that platform, you usually, it's like 50-50, it's a coin toss on whether you're getting the rail or not. So I think that that's a really cool feature that they added in on this, that you do have the ability to mount a light or whatever you feel like down here.
Like a sweet laser.
This isn't something you see very frequently, especially on like this 1911, 2011 platform. It's a coin toss. So it's nice that they did add that. But also going into the frame, this is a 2-piece frame. So you do have the metal frame here, as well as the polymer second part of the frame, or the polymer handle. A lot of split reviews on that one. A lot of people feel a certain type of way about it. Some people love it, some people hate it.
I mean, I have no gripe with it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so the handle itself, this polymer grip, is that just on its own? There's no metal under there?
That's correct. So it is
Okay.
completely polymer all the way up to about where the frame meets the slide, up into about this area right here. And then you get the metal, the second part of the metal frame that goes across the rail there.
Gotcha.
So the trigger guard is indeed polymer. The frame, the part we actually grab is indeed polymer. So the inside of the magazine well is polymer.
What?
It's just something to note. Again, some people like it, some people hate it. I personally, I think it's great. It makes the gun lighter than it needs to be.
That's true. I mean, this gun, I mean, it's a pretty heavy gun, but at the same time, it's not too terribly overbearing. I know there's a lot of like 1911 models that are much heavier than this thing is.
Absolutely. I mean, I've run, you know, the 1911 double stack pistols before, and they're extremely heavy because you're talking about a full metal frame at that point. Whereas this, you have a mix of polymer and metal. It's actually pretty light. It's not bad, which I think is great. We're out here in the cold right now. You know, we're not having to touch cold metal with our hands. which
That's
is
true.
nice. Moving along from that, I know that's a point of contention, but we're not gonna spend too long on it. Talk to me about these controls.
Okay, so as far as controls go, that's actually one of the things I really do like. There's one little thing that I don't, but control-wise, like, you know, the slide itself, I mean, it's almost effortless. I know with a lot of 1911s, it's always kind of like a lot of like pressure that you have to put there, and then finally it gives and breaks. This one, I mean, it's literally like...
It's smooth. It's like it's on rails.
The Kenny G saxophone solo. The slide, as far as racking that goes, it's almost effortless. The controls as well, you do have ambidextrous safety, which is nice, pretty common on most 1911, 2011 models. The one thing I have a gripe with, and I feel like this is something that should have changed by now, is the slide release. It's still that classic 1911 style slide release.
2 World Wars. You hear me?
And I don't know about you, but I can't ever reach them. Like, my thumb never gets there. I'm always having to brake. I'm always having to bring that gun in, which isn't the end of the world, but why can't we extend that out?
I mean, we're going on 2 World Wars and we can't update this, guys? Come on.
The other thing too that I'll say is get rid of the backstrap safety. You can flame me in the comments all you want, but this,
yeah, grip safety.
it's no longer needed.
It's
like,
outdated.
let's be honest.
We don't need it. Frankly speaking, you already have a thumb safety on there. We don't need another grip safety. I think it's just too much redundancy, and I understand wanting to follow the pattern of that 1911, and the fact that it is, you know, along with the 2011 line, most of them have them, but people are deleting them nowadays. You might as well just get rid of it to begin with. It's just one less step for us. Going back to that slide release though, another thing that I don't like about it is because it's so far away and you do have to break your grip, for someone like me that has small hands, you're breaking your grip to a point where it's almost unsafe. You know, I'm really pushing that point of like, I could possibly drop the gun to try to do it with my firing hand. So more often than not, I find myself coming up with a magazine and then using my offhand to either thumb rack over or press the slide release in my offhand. Not the greatest thing. I also slingshot every now and again, but I think it's inefficient. I would rather have a slide stop, slide release that I could actually use as an end user instead of just using it to lock the slide open. So that's one thing I think most Staccato owners have a gripe with, is the fact that they don't really come with them. Now I know Triarch, the TR11s do, and I know you can get the slide release from them, but it would be nice to see Staccato actually offer that for their own customers instead of having to go to the competition to get it. Another thing that I've been seeing, and I personally don't have such a problem with this, which is a shocker for once. A lot of people have a gripe with this magazine release. For the fact that this platform is so large, the grip is large, it's huge. So, I mean, trying to get your fingers around it to reach that magazine release is a little difficult, and the fact that it's so small, it's just a little button. We've seen on a lot of the 2011 platforms that people are, you know, they have extended magazine releases and all that, but this is a little bit anemic from the factory to begin with. So that's something that I wish was updated just a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. This is a pretty feature-packed gun from the factory. However, for the price that you're paying, there could be a couple more things, just small improvements that would make the end user's life a little easier. So that's one thing. Again, I don't mind it so much because I am used to having to break my grip a little bit. I have small hands.
Look at those hands. Are they small hands?
It's just normal. On a Glock, I still have that same problem where I do have to break my grip a little bit to get the magazine release. But even more so on this pistol, if you can see as my hand sits here, how far away it is from that mag release. So that could be something that, you know, an improvement in the future would be nice. It's not the end of the world. You can still make it work. The one thing I am concerned about is that slide release. That is a little troublesome to me. This is a hammer-fired gun. We all know that hammer-fired guns usually have really amazing triggers, but tell me about this trigger. Do you like it? Do you not?
I actually love it.
You like the trigger a lot?
So one of the things that I think differentiates with the Staccato is that because it is a duty pistol, they actually have a heavier pull on the trigger. So a lot of times 1911s are really Gucci, 1911s, 2011s, they have very light triggers, which is great, but not always something that you want to have.
Yeah.
Having a trigger that actually has a little bit of pressure or resistance to it,
yeah,
is nice. And it's about a 4.5 pound pull on the trigger, but even then it feels very effortless. I mean, it's not like it's that hard compared to like a 1.5 pound trigger.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of nice to have that peace of mind of like, hey, it's not that light,
yeah,
where you accidentally might, you know, make something go off.
Wall and reset, you feel. So that to me becomes something where, yeah, it's a tactile response in your finger and you want to be able to feel a wall and break it. So by lightening that trigger to a point where it's like 2.5 pounds, 1 pound, you almost don't even feel the trigger break anymore. And it's very hard to predict that, especially under stress when you're paying attention to other things, target acquisition, so on and so forth. The last thing you want to be paying attention to is where your wall is or where your reset is on the trigger. Now, obviously dry fire helps with that, but I feel like that, 4.5 pound trigger is like just the right spot where it's light enough that it's not strenuous. You're not looking like a 12 pound double action trigger, but you still get a nice crisp wall, especially on this trigger, and then you get a nice reset as well.
The trigger reset itself is very nice.
Very nice. Look at that.
I mean,
yeah, it
that
does
break, and then, I mean, you barely have to let off that and you're right back on it again. So
it is a known thing with these triggers that you do have to release it pretty much all the way. Now keep in mind, there's not a lot of travel to begin with, but you pretty much have to release it all the way in order for it to actually reset the mechanism.
But I
not
like
a
that
big
because it
ordeal.
almost creates a really nice cadence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's easy to pick up a good cadence with this.
100%. It's to fire, hammers, super easy. Trying to throw doubles and triples out there, super easy because that trigger doesn't travel very far and it has a very, very good response in the finger. One thing to note, just so you guys know, we are reviewing the Staccato P. The XC does have a lighter trigger, so that is something to note if you're looking at the different models between Staccato. The triggers sometimes can be different, so just understand that. But enough of us talking about triggers. What else about this gun do you really like?
Well, on a Gucci scale, this thing is, I would give it a solid 8.5.
8.5 Gucci.
Gucci gang. How's it shoot?
So yeah, shootability wise, this gun is a dream, and I highly recommend that any person out there who is interested in even trying one does, because other than the small gripes that we've had, this gun is so easy to shoot and it's such an enjoy to shoot. Hard to miss. I mean, the accuracy is so on point. We're out here using steel case ammo and it still just chews that up and you're hitting your mark every single time.
The price point comes in pretty high, so the entry to it is extremely high for some people. However, I think the qualities for the shooting are there, and they kind of warrant that. I understand, we're talking about, certain guns, $600-700 in the striker fired category. You can get up into like 1911s, some hammer fired CZs, and so on and so forth. They can start getting into the $1,400-1,500 range. And to add another $1,000 on top may be a lot for some people, but I think the value is there.
Definitely.
And that's kind of hard to explain through video or through words. It's just one of those things you have to experience because everyone can kind of justify cost in their own way. But to me, I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and especially if you're the type of person too that likes to have like one gun that's just like good for everything.
yeah.
Right? You want to buy once, cry once, right? This thing wouldn't be a bad option. It is, yeah, it's expensive, but I mean, it'd be a great play around gun. It's a great home defense gun. I mean, there's really nothing that this can't do. And then reliability wise, we have yet to have it malfunction. And we've been using steel case, like I said. So at least, my whole theory, obviously it's not like a solid theory, but if it can run steel case just fine without any, zero issues, then it's probably going to be good for everything else.
Yeah, that is super important to note. We see a lot of like the competitors out there where they're running certain pistols in the same 2011 category, same size, but they're almost having to hand load every single round that they put through it because the gun won't accept anything else.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get to a point
extremely picky.
Yeah, you don't want to get to a point where you're like, okay, well, I have to buy from this specific manufacturer and this specific grain weight because I know that my gun won't cycle anything else.
Yeah. Well, and I know you were telling me that they recommend that you use 124 grain.
Yeah.
But the fact that we haven't been, and
Yeah.
we've been using 115 grain steel and it's still doing just fine, I think that says something.
Yeah, I mean, usually through like a 2011 platform, you want to run a little bit of a heavier bullet. 124 plus P or like 147 grain is really nice too. Different, ballistics at the end game. But one thing I do know is that this gun is not a big fan of the elements. Getting it wet, getting it muddy, dirty a little bit, dust. We are talking about a metal slide on metal rails inside the metal frame or the top half of the metal frame. So tolerances are very tight. That's how they get this thing to be super smooth.
Yeah.
However, those tight tolerances mean that there's not a lot of room for things to get in there and for it to still function. So just be aware of that. So far as maintenance goes as well, I mean, it's not super bad. Just maintain it like any other pistol and you'll probably be fine.
Yep. Keep it clean, keep it well oiled. You'll be good to go.
Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet that I am a massive fan of is the magwell. I love the magwell on this gun. It's huge, it's super flared, and I like that it adds a lot of weight to the bottom. It's nice that you have some weight here and it's pretty well balanced in your hand versus having a lot of the weight up here because this is where all the metal is, considering the polymer frame. But this magwell is gigantic.
Don't show that.
But this magwell is awesome. I mean, the magwell, usually a lot of people say you want to match material to material. So you want to, if you have polymer frames, you want polymer magazines and vice versa. But here we have a polymer frame with a metal magazine and it's so slick putting these mags in. They slide in and out really easily. It's really hard to miss this magwell, and if you miss it slightly, it's going home. So this magwell is super awesome, and I also like the ergonomics of this gun. For this gun being as large in frame as it is, it's thick. But for this frame being the size that it is, and me having small hands, I actually find this really pleasantly, it's comfortable. I can hold, I like holding it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have baby hands, but
I guarantee you there's no problem.
You know what?
I'm sure my hand's a little bigger than yours, but it's so comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, coming off of a 1911 that's double stacked to this, the double stacked 1911s are huge. I can't even get my fingers to touch on the other side of the gun. Yeah. But on this, because of the contouring, this actually feels really comfortable. I do like it. Again, we both kind of hate the grip safety, but we're not gonna talk about that. The frame itself is really comfortable. I do like the new texture that they put on there. Staccato used to have like a checkered pattern before. Now they've got this new stippling, and it's really comfortable. I like it. It's not too aggressive, but it does give you grip. My hands are freezing cold and dry, and I still feel like I have a positive grip on this. So
yeah, it's very sandpapery.
This is a really, really nice change that Staccato has made to this pistol.
And I'd say as far as, you know, feeling goes, like the feeling I get when shooting this gun is I'm extremely happy.
Yeah, it's almost pay to win. It's cheating when you buy a Staccato. It makes you a better shooter.
Yeah, you can 360 no scope like a mo on this one. So real quick, guys, we want to touch on this. We actually are super excited to be doing this. You know, February is the month of love, and we want to give some of that love back to y'all. So this month we're actually giving away a Staccato P. Everything for that will be down in the description, so make sure you go check that out, follow the link, and, you know, read, do all that fun stuff. I can't talk too much about it on here, so yeah, please go check out the link. Well, guys, I think that wraps up the Staccato P here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you can, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that fun stuff. It really does help us out, and especially in today's climate where I don't know if you've heard, but they're starting to crack down on this type of stuff. So please help us out. Hit that like button, give it a watch, tell your friends, tell your mom.
I love my mom. She's probably watching. Hi, Mom.